Yeah.
Yeah, it is. When we first came down, I would say it was, percentage-wise, it seemed that the percentage was a lot higher of English people, kind of expats, or just people that are coming on holiday down here. Over the last 4 or 5 years, that has changed. There's a lot more Turks on site, which I really like as well. I had no issue with the English, but I live in England. I'm surrounded by English people all the time. And in all honesty, the Turkish people are some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Some of the most, hospitable, sharing, kind of caring people. It reminds me a little bit of like the community thing where everyone's like, okay, well, listen, let's just share everything. You come down, and it is the plates of food, and it is like they have one of their kind of religious holidays or whatever it might be. It's like it's not shut down of like this is our thing, and no, they're trying to involve you in it all the time, and I love that.
Right, welcome to the podcast, Mr. Matt Gutteridge, one of genuinely one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and I am 100% honest when I say that. So I think the problem I'm going to have with you today is too much
for less than 5 hours.
Less than 5 hours, because we could easily sit here and talk about a variety of things and still be cut short after 5 hours. But things I want to cover today, I mean, you're a father of 3, husband of 20 plus years, a holiday homeowner here in Altrincham, Didim. Is it classed as Mavershire where you are?
So I'm not actually sure. I should know this, but we've had it for 10 years. So yeah, I feel we're closer to Mavershire than Altrincham.
A little bit like no man's land, really.
It is, yeah.
Big complex out there. And it's certainly going to cover, you've got a planned motorbike trip next year from England to Turkey and back again. So is that going to be a round trip?
Well, it's definitely to here. So I think it's going to be back as well.
Whether you return.
We'll see when we get that far. When I get that far, if we're like, right, let's just put the bike on a boat and take a flight back. We don't quite know yet, but I kind of think it'll be back as well.
Well, I'm looking forward to delving into that.
Yeah.
And yeah, some history about, well, certainly a sense of community as well. I know we'll certainly dive into your background with community projects in the UK. And then with that in mind, what a sense of community you felt being here over the past, maybe how many years is it now since you bought?
10 years.
10 years. So, get your insight into community feel within Turkey, with Turkish people and also with the expat community. So there's a bit to cover. So we're going to try and get into all of that. But first and foremost, so how long have you owned out here? And what was that like early days? Because I do know it was fairly troublesome. Maybe not for you, but you're on a big complex, right?
Yeah.
Really big complex.
Well, I think that, we'll come on to some of those troubles, but the troubles came about, they were probably brewing already at the time when we bought, but then it kind of kicked off in a big way and really calmed down and has become this lovely complex now without trouble, largely due to some amazing management actually from Jill and Servet. They're fantastic at running the place. So they've they've saved it for a lot of people, I think. And now it's a wonderful complex. But yeah, we bought 10 years ago. We'd been on holiday down here. No, it was 9 years ago we bought. 9 years ago, 2013, in May. And 10 years ago we came on holiday down here.
And that was your first time?
That was the first time ever in Turkey. So we'd never done, the previous year we'd gone to Greece, and it was the first time we'd actually done a proper holiday as a family. We'd done camping and stuff like that, but we got 3 boys, we had them in 3 years, and we were camping and all that kind of stuff. And then we got involved in this community house project, which also involved renovating a 19-bedroom Georgian house in Bristol. So we were absolutely knackered, and Lillian, my wife, was like, do you know what, we're going on holiday. I don't care what you say, because I've always been a bit stingy. We're like, am I going to spend thousands of pounds going on holiday, And she went and booked an all-inclusive in Greece the year before. We went on this I'd never relaxed like that in my life. You know, I was so chilled. I thought, this is it. I want to go on all-inclusive for the rest of my life, you know. And then I was like, let's do another one. So that's when we booked Turkey. And we went to the Club Tarhan, which is just up the road from where we bought on the Apollon Holiday Village. And totally loved it. I loved everything about Turkey. I'd never been before. And loads of people got loads of opinions about Turkey, which I think actually have changed quite a lot over the years. But back at the time, they're like, why do you want to go to Turkey for? And I was like, I don't know. It was a good price, you know. Great price. And we came down, had the best holiday ever. And I love the people. I love the food. Of course, the weather. Everything was like, yeah, it just ticked all the boxes. Totally ticked all the boxes. And while we were here, you know, we were only here for, I think it was a 12-day all-inclusive or something. And while we were here, I was like, I'm just going to pop into town and have a little look around, you know. So I came into town, was having a little look around, and I was looking at these estate agents, and I saw some of the prices. I was like, what currency is that? Because that just doesn't seem right, you know. Some of them were saying they were pounds, you know. I was looking at it, and I was like, nah, you can't buy a garden shed for that price in the UK, you know. So I went in, I spoke to this guy, and he said, hey, listen, I'll take you around to a few so you can have a look. So he shut up shop, put me in his car, and we drove off around, and I was looking at these places.
And this was you on your own?
This was me on my own, right? I was just out to buy some yogurt or something. I don't know what it was. But anyway, hours later, I came back to the hotel. I was like, Lillian, we're buying a place. And she was like, what on earth are you talking about? I said, no, seriously, this is crazy. This is like, I'd had all the figures. Like, if we go on holiday for 10 years, we've saved as much as, you know, I had all these kind of plans and everything. And anyway, so I was a little bit common sense kind of kicked in. Like, maybe I'm just really excited about this. You know, let's wait. So we came home, and I didn't stop talking about it for months and months and months. Every day I was looking. And then one night, I was in bed at 11 o'clock at night, right? So bearing in mind, that's 1 o'clock in the morning over here. Mm-hmm. 11 o'clock at night, I was just searching. I wonder if there's anywhere, you know. And this place came up on Apollon Holiday Village. So I thought, that's a really, really good price. And that's a lovely, you know, complex, lovely apartment. So I thought, I'll just phone the number. So I picked up my phone, and someone picked up. Of course, everybody works, you know, like 28 hours a day over here in season, you know. So someone picked up, and they were like, yeah, we've got loads of interest, but if you want it, you're going to have to get down here, you know, really quick. So I said, I'll be there tomorrow. So I just booked a flight and flew out here.
Was that just yourself?
Just me, yeah. And, you know, Lillian was really kind of trusting and said, well, listen, you've been going on about this for like 6 months now, so it's something you clearly want to do. And we basically just threw all of our savings into buying this apartment down here. And to say it's the best thing I've ever bought is an understatement. You know, without question, the best thing I've ever bought, I think. Yeah, so we bought it, and we didn't have money to really furnish it or anything, so we came down. The first time we came down, we were sleeping on blow-up mattresses there and stuff. It was... But yeah, it's been, you know, and I look forward to coming down every single time. And I love the place, you know. It's been a kind of a place where it's my happy place that I go, you know, when I'm working really hard, and at least I can get down there soon.
So you know you've got that, that's good.
And it's been special.
You've got three boys, so they're in their early 20s now. So they've literally, you've witnessed them turning from boys to men, and enjoying that. Because do you tend to try and get out 3 times a year?
So 3 times is kind of my dream, really, to get out. And we've been able to do that most of the time. Obviously not in pandemic season, because that threw everything. But yeah, we try to get out 2 or 3 times a year. And we thought that the boys wouldn't want to come out with us when they turn kind of 16, 17, something like that. But now they are 19, nearly 20 and 23. And they're all down here now, you know, they're in the apartment right now with their girlfriends, fiancés, whatever.
Yeah, you recent, was it? Because funny enough, we first met on a boat trip 3 years ago on Sunshine Boat, which was great, and we got on like a house on fire, and it was a lovely experience. And you were celebrating your 20th wedding anniversary. Yeah. And then we've always we connected via Facebook and always kind of kept in touch. And out the blue, when I had puppies from a street dog that I adopted that I didn't know was pregnant. And I think you sent like 30 quid out the blue to help with fundraising for the medical bills and stuff. And I remember thinking that's I owe you a beer next time you're here. And then we bumped into each other on the beach. And I think I was with my dog, wasn't I, when I bumped into you? Yeah. And it just, got you down to walking football. And then coincidentally, we were booked on the same boat trip the next day as we first met, which was pretty mental, really. How do we go through, like, we were talking about community and meeting people here, and how has that been? Because people tend to either want to live on a complex or they really don't for various reasons. And how have you found that in the 10 years with your boys growing up? Because you're a little bit isolated over there, right? So do you rent a car? What are you doing for activities? Do you just tend to stay around the pool most of the holiday, sunbathing? I can't imagine that's the case.
Well, I'm not a massive sunbather. I do like the sun, of course, but I'm a bit too kind of active. So we've never experienced anything else down here, So I don't know what it's like to live in the centre of Altrincham. I'm sure that's got its charm as well because you're kind of really connected to everything, really close. Mm-hmm. I am a little bit like, the older I get, the more private I am in many ways, So I quite like the fact that we're out of the way. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that it's a complex as well because for us, I'm leaving, when I leave the complex, I'm leaving it in someone else's hands. I've got someone that goes in there once a month to check that everything's okay, that we're not flooded or, whatever it might be. I know that the complex is kept well. We've got, like I mentioned, a brilliant management team there that are taking care of it. So I don't have to think about it when I'm there. But I guess if I had a flat in the middle of town or a villa or something or whatever, that's probably got its charms as well, that I would get used to and think, I like this, So, and I've never felt isolated out there because Altrincham is a sizable city, but it's not like it's not like London or Birmingham or something where like if you're on the outskirts, you're 3 hours commute backwards and forwards, and it's literally like you get on a Dolmus and it's 10 minutes up the road. So, but for a lot of people, I can imagine that they come here for a reason. They want to be involved in nightlife. They want to do all that stuff. So being out there might be a little bit out of the way. So I would say it's more a family kind of complex where you're really safe there with your kids. You can all sit around the pool. They can run around and do their thing, and they're not going to disappear off to the beach without knowing about it, because they just can't. It's too far to walk. So I've really enjoyed that kind of the quiet, getting away from it all and being out. And we, like I say, we've normally rented cars when we come over. Right. It wasn't really feasible this time because we'd be 9 people out here in our 3-bed apartment. I
was going to say, because I joined you on the bus in the morning to go to the boat trip, and how many... The bus was nearly full, and it was only your party that was on it that was staying in your apartment. I was is this all your lot? You were
we had 10 people at that point. So I don't quite... We had to go out and get some more beds and stuff, so we had people just sleeping everywhere. I don't know why we did it. We had a brilliant time. I just wanted friends and everything to come over, and so we cram them in when we have to.
That's awesome. And just give us some insight into what you were doing back in the UK before with this community living. I think it's a good way to segue to then talk about community here in Turkey with Turkish people that live here, Turkey holiday, homeowners that visit the complex, and also the expat community. So, because I only realised, we went out for a few beers and you tapped into this, and I was just like, that's amazing, what you were doing and why you were doing it. And because did you start that community home when you came back from Norway? Because you were living in Norway, right? So your wife's Norwegian, you're fluent Swedish and Norway, right?
All that stuff. These things.
And so did you set up that community housing when you came back from Norway? Was that kind of the first thing you pretty much did?
So it was fairly soon after. It wasn't on the kind of in our plans or dreams or aspirations to do anything like that at all. We knew nothing about it. But we'd always, Lily and I, we've always lived or wanted to kind of live slightly differently. Or that might not even be the right way to say it, but we've not felt restricted by the kind of the normal way of doing life. We've never felt restricted by that. We've always felt that there's always opportunities, and you can kind of do what you want, really. You make your own story. And we came back from, I've been living in Norway for about 13 years, actually, in total. We got married, living over there. We decided that we wanted to come to the UK. Initially, it was going to be for about a year. And we thought we'll come over and put the kids into English school so they can learn English and all that kind of thing. There we go, it's a bit better, isn't it? Hey.
There we go.
Yeah. And they could learn English and kind of get up to speed with all of that. But we just ended up staying. And about a year and a half into being in the UK, some friends of ours that have started community houses. Now, it's all been kind of based around, it's been kind of church organisations that has been the backbone for a lot of this community house living in the UK, or in Bristol. And Bristol is really big for community living. There's lots of these community houses. And some friends of ours, Greg and Claire, they'd found this house that was on Ashley Road in Bristol that had been squatted in for years. It had been evicted, and it was just sat there. And it was kind of 5 stories, flats, designed by the Patty brothers that also designed the whole of Park Street back in the 1700s. So this house was from 1790, right? And been converted into flats, completely kind of wrecked internally and kind of modernized it and stuff like that. And then it had been squatted in, and they destroyed the place, right? And so Greg approached me and he said, listen, we're buying this place and we want to start a community home. Do you want to run it? And we were like, what? You know, but there's something that kind of, it kind of, see you guys, it triggered something in me of this adventure, because I do like a bit of adventure. I do like doing different things, a bit crazy things sometimes, and decided that, do you know what, we're going to go for this. So we kind of dropped everything and started to work on this property to get it up to speed. So I think we, if I remember rightly, we sorted the kitchen and the lounge and 5 of the bedrooms with bathrooms and stuff. So it was like 2 of the floors that got sorted. And then just the sheer amount of people that wanted to move in with us to do this project was unbelievable. We were like, wow, this is crazy. So before we knew it, within about a year, everything had been renovated up to a livable standard. There's still loads to do with it, but everything been renovated up to a livable standard. We had a house of about 20 people. You know.
Wow. And this is with your wife and 3 young boys?
Lillian, Joshua, Marcus, and Elias, you know, they were all part of this. You know, they were there. They were what was Elias then? Elias was like 9 or something at that point.
Wow.
Like, 8 or 9. So we had kind of, let's say, from the age of 9 to 12, they were all there, and they were painting walls and scraping floors. You know, we just totally mucked in and did it, and for some reason it really worked with where me and Lillian were at that time in our lives as well. And we were like, we want to do this, and we wanted to invest in people, and we wanted to do life in a different way, and we didn't really have a massive reason for it. It's just we wanted to do this, you know. And sometimes we're always looking for this massive reason to do stuff, and sometimes just the pure adventure of it is enough. Like
a rite of passage, kind of.
Yeah, it's like it's you kind of. So we weren't really waiting for the writing on the wall about it or anything like that. We were like, I said to Lillian, let's spend 2 weeks making the decision, no more than 2 weeks. So we'll think about it, we'll ponder it, we'll talk about it, and if we're like, yeah, it could be a go at that, we'll just do it. That's enough, you know. So we went into that. We ran that for 8 years. And we moved out not because we were sick of it. We weren't sick of it at all. We loved it. And, you know, actually all the people that have come to visit us down here while we've been down here, they're people we've lived with in that house.
So was it a couple of people that I met on the boat trip were from that project?
Yeah.
Wow,
some of our best friends in life have come from that project. And I don't even like calling it a project because it was life, you know. It wasn't like, okay, we've got to have a specific outcome from this. It was like there was no outcome. Sometimes the outcome is that people feel part of a community, they feel loved, they feel accepted. They're brought together in a way they wouldn't have been brought together before, and there's no real okay, so everybody's lives are completely changed, everyone's found a purpose, all that kind of thing. It's not that dramatic. It's more we were doing life together and doing life together and becoming lifelong friends and being able together to help facilitate some really good things for people that are in need was more than a good outcome. But yeah, we ended up moving out because my mum passed away quite suddenly. My dad was quite a bit older than my mum, and we said, you need to come and live with us. You can't live on your own. And so we looked after him, and just the focus of having to look after dad and the boys being at home only for a few more years before they moved out, we thought this is a good time. So we kind of presented it to the community that we're moving on. We didn't leave Bristol. We're still in Bristol, and we're still in touch with everybody that we ever lived with, really, from most of them. So and we handed it on to one of the girls that had been living with us for years, and a girl called Amy, and she's just done a phenomenal job of kind of keeping it all together.
And that's still running?
It's still running, still going strong. And yeah, really, really lovely.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, in terms of asking someone about a sense of community and what that really means, when you've lived it and breathed it, which is just tremendous. How have you felt coming out here the last 10 years to Turkey, and with that community feel? I mean, I've had guests where you talk about plates being handed over the balconies from neighbours, and you give the plate back with food on it, and it's it's like a relay of joy and kindness back and forth. I mean, living on a complex, is it a mix of English and Turkish?
Yes, yeah, it is. When we first came down, I would say it was, percentage-wise, it seemed that the percentage was a lot higher of English people, kind of expats, or just people that are coming on holiday down here. Over the last 4 or 5 years, that has changed. There's a lot more Turks on site, which I really like as well. I had no issue with the English, but I live in England. I'm surrounded by English people all the time. And in all honesty, the Turkish people are some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Some of the most, hospitable, sharing, kind of caring people. It reminds me a little bit of like the community thing where everyone's like, okay, well, listen, let's just share everything. You come down, and it is the plates of food, and it is like they have one of their kind of religious holidays or whatever it might be. It's like, it's not shut down of like, this is our thing, and no, they're trying to involve you in it all the time. And I love that. I love it. Yeah, they're good people.
What's that been like with your boys? Because having that community set up and community living back in England must have been tremendous for their learning and their whole life experience. What's it been like for them to come out on holiday to a regular holiday home? Because you get people who might have children who either want to live on a complex because it's safer, as you've said, for families, but then might think, well, we want them to get out more or be in the community a bit more. What's it been like for your boys being out here and socialising with whether that's expats or Turkish people? Have they got Turkish friends out here that they've kind of bumped into and grown up with over the years?
Yeah, so not so much of like, they haven't got people their own age that they've kind of grown up with out here. But they know loads of people out here, right, obviously. And the funny thing about living in community in the UK with our boys was that they became really, really good at communicating with adults. So for the first few years, there was about 4 or 5 years in the community house where we didn't have any other children living with us because we didn't want them to feel like they were sharing like their childhood with loads of other kids and this sense of family being. And I don't know whether it was 100% right or not, but we felt we had to try and protect family in the middle of all of this so that it didn't become kind of diffused into everybody. We were doing kind of family with other people as well. We did eventually have children move in with us as well, but they were much younger than our boys, so there was kind of a differentiation between their lives and our lives in that sense. But our boys became really good at communicating with adults, which was a problem at school because the school would get in touch and say, well, your boys have been questioning the teachers in a way that we're not happy. And I'm like, right, I need to kind of explain this. You know what I mean? Anyway, but so they know loads of people down, but loads of adults. So they're kind of, they people on the complex, people in town, always kind of, hey guys, how you doing? They're very good socially, incredibly good socially. So
Well, was it the last time you were out and I bumped into you on the beach, and was it Marcus that was out with you on that visit?
Yeah.
So, and one thing, it's just a little thing that sticks out, but it really, it goes a long way. And you introduced me to your family, and I remember shaking his hand, and I hadn't mentioned my name, and so then we sat down, and he said, "Oh, sorry, what was your name?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm James," and it's just like that kind of respect, that insight, that maturity in that one instance, and that really stood out, and I thought that's unique. That's
They did. They got kind of fast tracked into communicating well. They didn't even know. They didn't even realize, I don't think, that they were kind of in a bit of a masterclass of dealing with loads of different personalities and how that has helped them to kind of read situations quite well, subconsciously most of the time. But yeah, definitely.
And fluent Norwegian as well.
Yes, yeah. I would say Joshua, the oldest one, he's fluent in his understanding. Their Norwegian's taken a bit of a hit, having not been there for so long, but definitely understand absolutely, because Lillian speaks Norwegian all the time.
Yeah.
And then speak when they have to. Marcus, the middle one, he's always been like, I want to speak this as well, so he's kept it really up to speed. But Elias, when we was only 7 when we came over to the UK, but again, understands everything that's being said to him, and when he's put into a corner, it will come out. Squeeze him hard enough, some Norwegian comes out.
I did hear it on the boat trip. It was interesting to hear. But you're a pro photographer, so you that's one of many strings to your bow. And we got you along to our walking football group on a Monday morning.
I'm not a pro walking football guy. I can tell you that.
You do cause some problems. You're pretty quick as quick as you can be with walking football, but you're certainly fit, and you get about the pitch and cause
some
a
problems
few,
in my groin last time.
And you brought the boys, and it was really, really good of you as well to come and take some pro photographs, which we're going to utilise. And your boys played, and it was great to hear that everybody enjoyed themselves with that. So that was super fantastic. I mean, I know you do a lot of different photography, but you bring your camera out here, and what kind of stuff are you enjoying capturing when you're on holiday?
Obviously when we first came out, the first few years, it was just like there is just a billion things to take photos of. What I've noticed over the years as we've been coming out, I've kind of taken photos of everything, because you kind of do after a while. And it's, loads of family stuff, of course, but there's everything out here is quite different than the UK. So for me, I'm not a massive kind of street photographer going out doing loads of street stuff all the time. But over here, I can be, because it inspires me in a slightly different way than being in the UK. Because I see it every day in the UK, so you're a little bit like, And also, I do a lot of wedding photography, a lot of corporate photography. And sometimes having your camera in your hand feels like work. So sometimes it's like, I just put this thing away, and that's the danger of becoming a professional in something. Making a living out of your hobby can sometimes be a negative thing for the hobby.
It can tarnish it, can't it?
Yeah, because you don't enjoy it the way you used to. It used to be a real thing of getting my camera out. Oh, I love this, I love just the feel of the camera. And now I'm like, oh, flip, I got to edit this afterwards. I don't know if I can be bothered, so you get your phone out instead. Lots of landscape stuff over here, and just family jumping into the pool like a million times. Do a backflip off the boat. Hey, I got that one, yeah. That one for 7 years now.
Well, let's talk about this proposed motorbike trip that you've got lined up.
Yeah.
Because there's loads to go out there. I mean, I like the fact that we're going to talk about it, and this is going to go out into the public domain, because we've already touched on that it kind of holds you.
It holds me accountable.
Yeah. Which I like. So, I mean, first of all, just give us, why are you planning such a trip, first and foremost? And some of the kind of ideas you've got around that. Because, I mean, we've had various chats on it about capturing it as content, why you'd capture it as content, documenting it, putting it out there. Let's go why first and foremost, because that's a bit of an investment of time and money. And
it is. I mean, I'm 46 now, and I've asked myself the question, why do I want to do something like this? And I think there's a sense in, you get to 46 and you've done a bit of life already, family or whatnot, if you've gone down that route.
Lived in Norway, had 3 kids, got married, drummed internationally.
Yeah, drummed professionally. That's what took me out to Scandinavia. Met Lillian on tour of Norway and Denmark. got married, realised that I need to get a real job now. So, you know, all
yeah,
that
so when
stuff.
you say you've lived a bit.
Yeah. And if I'm honest, I'm 46. I'm a 46-year-old bloke. And there's a sense that I want some adventure as well, you know. It's not like I'm bored with life. I'm not bored with life. Life is amazing. But there's something in me that's like, okay, I want more, you know. And it's not that you want more money or you want more. It's more experiences, you know. It seems that experiences start to take the kind of the prime position in your life. I want to experience this stuff. I want, you know. So anyway, it started with that. I've always loved motorbikes, but always been a little bit afraid of them as well. So, because, you know, when I was younger, I rode them too fast, and it was like, I'm going to die on this thing, so I'm going to sell it. So, you know, but it keeps coming back, and I love riding motorcycles. I thought it would be an amazing thing. I was at my nephew's wedding, which it was a year ago yesterday. I was at my nephew's wedding. And I started to talk to some friends and my brother about maybe doing a motorcycle trip, you know. We'd had a couple of drinks, so we were like, everything was possible. So I was like, wouldn't it be great if we got some motorcycles and just rode them down to our place in Turkey? And they were like, mate, that would be amazing. Like, let's do this, you know. And I was like, brilliant. So right there and then I set up this WhatsApp group, like, motorcycle ride to Turkey, and invited them. And then anyway, next morning I put a message, hey, we need to talk about this more. Already they were like, do you know what, that's probably not something I'm going to do, but it was great to talk about it. So it was like, great. But then it was like, I've said this, right? I said this now. I think actually I want to do it, but why? And then I started to ask myself the question, why do I want to do that? And it was down to the adventure thing, but that isn't, you know, riding a bike down a load of roads until you end up at an apartment in Turkey. Was like, wow. Yeah, okay, that's great, but I also want to do something more with it. I want to kind of document it somehow. I want it to mean something to me, but maybe to other people as well. Maybe my boys would get some, you know, inspiration out of watching it, or maybe my grandkids, you know, which is probably going to happen in the next 5 or 6 years or something. Please, you know, that's what I really want. And, you know, and I started to kind of play with the ideas a bit, and then we came down here to Turkey, and I kind of mentioned to you on that boat, on a boat trip, wasn't it? Was it on a boat trip?
No, we were. I think we were at the bar. We'd met up at the. I think we'd met up at the bar. Yeah, a bar for an hour or something, and you. Yeah, and you mentioned that's it, right?
That's
You mentioned it,
and you started to, you know, ping a few ideas out about, well, why don't you think about this one? Actually, there's loads I could do with this, and if I'm honest, one of the things that fascinates me the most is when I see people doing good things for other people at their own cost without having any kind of like seemingly reason to do it, you know. And like I'm quite a religious person, and I always have been, and always felt this kind of connection to like something greater than me, that there is something greater than me that I kind of need to incorporate that in my life somehow, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've spent a lot of time around kind of Christian organizations and other religious organizations and often work with them as well, because I find them quite inspiring, and it puts reason and purpose to a lot of stuff that is, and does stuff that often society neglect as well. So they get in there and they do amazing things. But I also kept coming across people that were doing amazing things without having any religious connection whatsoever. Mm. and I thought to myself, you know, that is quite amazing, because sometimes with a religious connection, you can often feel like, okay, so if I do this, there's some kind of maybe future reward, you know, in some way. But people that have no religious connection whatsoever, but are doing all this kind of stuff.
Look at what we're doing now. You've donated, given your time today. I'm here. I've spent thousands of pounds worth of money on equipment, and I think there are, the Chinese whispers of the town have come back, and I don't think people know the reason why I'm doing it. You know, I'm doing it really. I mean, I do it to offer value, to inspire people. I mean, essentially, if this inspires people to visit Turkey just on holiday, well, it's pumping money into the economy, and we know the economy's been knackered in the past 12, 18 months. Like yourself and many others, people come here for the first time and buy property. So they're investing more money into the economy, which is amazing. We've got people that were going to retire to Italy that have literally said, well, I didn't realise I could retire 10 years earlier if I choose Turkey. Yeah. So we've got people like that. We've got business people in Australia who are selling up and who are sat on a chunk of money on assets and go, well, I can bring my family out to Turkey and retire and be in a... So we've got all of this going on, which is just great. Whilst at the same time, I'm learning the equipment for my own business purposes when I set up my own podcast and stuff. So, yeah, I think sometimes... touching on that is some people struggle to see well, why are they doing that? They have this. There must be a kind of a real secret reason on why they're doing it. Whereas, like you and myself, we've spoken on a number of times about how good it feels to give back, to offer value to people without any need of anything back. But when you hear stories like that of inspiring people to make not only think differently but then take action on those thoughts, it's just incredible.
This is, I mean, like. People that have no kind of religious connection but are doing loads of good stuff anyway, I'm like, well, that is the kind of the purest type of good that I come across, because they're like, well, I think they're not even thinking in their heads that one day I'm going to get some kind of reward from this or some pat on the back.
The pearly gates are going to open when I go. I mean,
like God's going to be like, you's amazing, and. So I find that really, really inspiring. I find it really, really inspiring. And I've coined a phrase. I don't know if it's me that's coined it or someone, but I meet people that I feel like they're kind of rubbing shoulders with God and they don't even know they're doing it. And some people listen to this and say, well, I don't believe in God anyway, so it doesn't matter. That's completely fine. And I'm not kind of out on a kind of an agenda to get you to believe anything. In fact, just stay as you are, because you're just fantastic and what you're doing is amazing. So I'm not...
If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, there's something good going on here. Let's not screw it up with some crazy religious nonsense. Do you know what I mean? So I've a part of this bike trip, I would like to, if I can, I don't even know how I'm going to research it. I kind of want to find people down the route from the UK to Turkey that are doing some unusual things where I feel like you are rubbing shoulders with God and you don't even know it. And I'm probably not even going to tell you that you are, because you might not even believe anything like that. So then, I want to keep that kind of out of the... I just want to see it. I want to document it. It brings me so much joy when I see... I mean, when we came down to Turkey, we met some... There was loads of Liverpudlians on the site, which is great, I started talking to them and realised that they're doing unbelievable things in their communities up in Liverpool, sorting out all this, and they were setting up these kind of charities. They weren't even really charities, but the charitable, activities of making sure that people had enough kind of food and clothing and all this kind of thing. And they were setting this, and people were actually abusing it. They were getting stuff stolen from them at the same time as doing this, stuff. And they were like, that's what's going to happen, but we ain't going to stop doing it anyway. And I was like, so where's the reward in this for you guys? You're just doing it.
What's the driver? What's the sense of purpose?
And it seriously was that they just wanted to do some good. And I've been just flabbergasted by people's desire to do good. And in a world where it's so kind of messed up, everything is so messed up, you come across this stuff and it's like some kind of arrow's being shot. An arrow of goodness is just kind of shot through all the crap. All the shit that's going on, there's just goodness being shot through it all the time by people that are like, we're going to do some good anyway, whatever the cost. And you're like, well, this is blowing me away. And I find it everywhere. I find it in you as well, just all the stuff you're doing. And why, I think, if you break it down, if a business person broke it down, they'd be like, do you know what, mate? It's a better use of your time to do this and this and this, because you're doing loads of money doing that. Why are you doing this? And it's not that you don't have business aspirations and aspirations to earn money from what you do, but there's a load of stuff that you do that actually it might be detrimental in terms of your use of time to reach those goals that other people think are the main thing in life. But you do them anyway because you're like, do you know what? It's important that we get this community together. It's important that we get this walking football team going and functioning properly, because people need community. And just, I've only been there, 2 times, I think, took me flipping ages to recover from it. It's one of the hardest things.
You can't say that. You're 46. We're trying to encourage people of 60 or 70 years old.
But you've got these guys there. You've got White Lightning. I don't even know his name. It's like, mate, you're the fastest thing ever. And it's like, how can you walk that fast? It's like, yeah, it's been, but yeah, there's something driving you to do things like that, and there's something driving people like you to do things that you do, and it's coming for a sense of, it's just a pure goodness of heart. I value this, I'm going to do it, and I love seeing it, and I want to see more of it.
Yeah, I think if you put it out there, it comes back at some point in various guises, right? It comes back in many different forms. So what I'm curious of is you're looking at England to Turkey, and you're looking at doing some interesting, good things, meeting up with good communities, people along the way. What if you were to do a ride from England to Turkey in a reasonable amount of time direct? So is that like a 3-day trip? So
if you hammered it,
right.
It's kind of thing that you could do in 3 or 4 days in a car. You wouldn't really want to do it on a bike.
Right.
Yeah.
So are we talking 5 or 6 days on a bike?
Easily.
And that's, right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, easily.
But I'm aware you're looking at longer than that, right?
Yeah.
So what are you looking at?
I'm basically hoping to be able to take off the month of May.
So a whole month?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
That's incredible.
And it might not be a whole month, but I would like to think that Lillian's probably going to fly down and meet me when I get here, and we'll have a few days and decide whether I do the ride back, and if we've got plans for that, energy and appetite for that. But I'm thinking kind of 3 to 4 weeks in total and so I want to spend my time making sure that I get to see. I'm probably not going to do something like this again.
Yeah.
Having said that, when you've done it, you might be like, "This is my life now.
This is my new business. Yeah. I'm gonna get loads. I'm gonna do trips with 5 or 6 people, and I'm just gonna do that once a month."
Right? Yeah. You never know. You never know.
These
things happen, don't they? You never say never. But so that's my plan. So the month of May next year, that's when I really want to go ahead and do it, because it's not too, when you're sat, you got to wear the full protective gear and everything for a ride like that, and you don't want to be doing that when it's 35 degrees.
No.
So
like
May
kind of
is
spring.
nice.
Yeah.
May is nice. And I'm not doing it on a big adventure bike. I've bought a 1995 Triumph Thunderbird. It's not the kind of bike you do it on, but it's the bike that I want to do it on. So I nearly bought a BMW GS thing to do it on. But having such short legs was an issue.
They are big, those BMWs. And the thing about those BMWs are, they're so protected. My mate has one, and he says he'll look down and he's doing 140 mile an hour without knowing it.
Yeah, right.
And I don't think that's a good place to be.
No.
Yeah, I had a Triumph Scrambler 900, same engine size as yours, and if you hit 80, you know about it.
Oh, it just hurts.
And I think that's a great place to be. You want to be aware of doing a speed like that.
I'm a dodder on a bike, Right. So I ride like an old. If you ride like an old man, you'll die an old man.
Do you wear one of those bandanas with flames coming off it and the tassels?
No, you got to go down the Harley route for that, definitely.
I'm just really curious on, because there's different routes that you can do from the UK to Turkey. Can you give us some standout places that you really want to hit on the way? Because you could do it a quick route, you could do it a long route if you've got time. Where are like 2 or 3 standout places you'd really want to hit on that journey?
I mean, that is a work in progress, definitely. I'm thinking on the way down, because I'll come down one way and back up another.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of coming down, obviously into France, over into Switzerland, over the Alps into the Dolomites, and then kind of Serbia and that route. So you come into Turkey through the, Bulgaria, drop down into Istanbul and down that way. I'd kind of like to go back Izmir, take the boat over to Athens, through Greece, over to Italy, up through Italy, and then perhaps kind of stay mostly in France, back up through. That's my thinking. That could all change, quite drastically.
Of course.
And then, but it depends what I find, because I've got to start doing my research. I've already got a couple of places I'm visiting there, because I've had some interaction with them before, and I want to just see what they're up to and what they're doing. Yeah, it's still in the planning phase.
And capturing content for that. What's your thoughts at the moment? I know that's as well in the planning stage, but what's your thoughts on that? Are you going to like vlog style, diary style, drone, documentary, scenery shots, or all of the above? Are you thinking of?
So, yeah, I think all of the above.
Right.
You've borrowed this drone that you had, and I've been messing about with that, flying it in places I probably shouldn't. So I get these messages saying you can't fly here, and you got to go back. But so I really love photography. So I'm going to be doing some. I'd love to do a kind of a photo book out of it because they're going to see some lovely stuff, videography stuff as well. So I think. Literally all of the above. I've got to be a little bit careful because you can't take unlimited gear with you, and you don't want to be so focused on filming everything that you lose the kind of the here and now of it as well. So it'll be a mix of GoPro, maybe one of those 360s. They're quite interesting as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, GoPros and some talking head stuff and interview stuff with people and just filming things that are going on. So it's going to be a little bit of a mix.
I dare say it's going to be a balance as well, because it's like the scenario of people going to a concert and watching the concerts through the phone.
Exactly.
You'll get so much out of interviewing people and capturing that as content, but you also want to come away from that. I mean, you mentioned being here in Turkey and having your camera, and it feels like work. Yeah. So you're going to want to make sure you have time for yourself and your own soul food as part of that experience.
But I mean, it all started with me being like, I want some adventure, And it started with something that was for me and feeding my own soul. I was like, there's lots of things that feed my soul, actually. I can feed my soul in a day doing something I really love. But when I start to think about all the stuff that really kind of feeds me, a lot of it is to do with this kind of adventure but story kind of, all mixed into it. And I want to come away from it feeling like that was really life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
That was really good. And probably a load of new people that I've met around the world.
Well, it's interesting because it's a trip like that you can almost guarantee. I mean, failing, something like an accident or something bad happening, which of course we don't want to hope on anyone or wish, but failing that, excluding that, it's almost a guarantee of amazement, isn't it? Really, you go like, if I'm going to do that trip, barring something really going wrong, it's guaranteed to be phenomenal and amazing, and I'm just going to throw myself into it and experience it all and take it all on board that comes to me. What's really interesting to fire our listeners and viewers with, I put you onto a Facebook group called Travel Bug.
Yeah, literally.
So you've literally just signed up for that. So anybody who's thinking of coming over to Turkey by road, Travel Bug is brilliant. You get people documenting their journey, travel time, hotel expenses, toll road expenses. It's a phenomenal group to be part of. And I did notice, especially with the pandemic, more and more people have chosen to drive out here to Turkey and back, whether that's just they felt safer doing so, or they had more time on their hands. So it's certainly something to look into as an option. And of course, you want to be aware of like rules and regulations with your cars, how long you can have your cars here, insurance types, all of that. So that information is on Travel Bug, for sure. But Matt, before we wrap up, I normally ask people like, what's your favourite food in Turkey, your favourite places to have a bite to eat, things like that. But I'm really curious because, father, husband, coming out here, doing plenty of activities, also wanting just to wind down as well, is you'd say your three favourite things to do here when you come out to Turkey? What does that look like? So when you're coming out, what's your three favourite things to do? And would I be right in thinking, would a boat trip be one of them?
Yeah, definitely a boat trip. I've got to give a shout out to the Sunshine Boat. You mentioned them once already, but Erdal and Ifa, those guys, right from when we first came out, doing out on holiday, we just getting on that boat trip and meeting those guys, it became a real kind of tradition for us that this is what we do. I haven't actually been on a single other boat.
And you've done two this holiday, right?
Two so far, yeah. So we try to do one a week when we're down. So if we're down 3 weeks, it would be three. So it's a boat trip, definitely one of them. That's a big deal for us. What's the other thing? Okay, this is another one. We love going down to the Mavashir market. and meeting Hakubar. She runs the Gozleme place, right?
Yep, another one.
And
so Turkish pancakes.
Yeah. And so we just love her to bits, and she's part of the reason her pancakes taste so good. Do you know what I mean? So we love her to bits. And then the other thing is going to Anadolu Sofrası.
That's a restaurant on the boulevard?
That's a restaurant on the boulevard.
I've actually spotted you there before.
Oh,
you and Lillian there before.
And we go there and we have an Iskender, which is a Turkish dish. So those three things, like it's funny because when we're on our way, the first thing the boys are like, right, let's go to Anadolu Sofrası. We need an Iskender. We need to do that. We've tried Iskenders elsewhere, but because that was the place we tasted them first, they taste best there. And we know the guys that work there because we've been going there for a long, long time. So those three things, two of them are about food. The third one's about a boat that also has great food. It's food, really. It's food. Yeah.
Love that. Well, Matt, thanks so much for your time. For giving your morning up today. As I said, we're about 50 minutes in, and we could have times that by 10 easy. Easy. With that in mind, I look forward to speaking with you again. I mean, if it's next time that we get you on the podcast and you are here landed on your motorbike, fresh off your trip, I mean, that will be some episode. We might have to just kind of like block out the day for that one, and we'll make sure we get a nice restaurant with a beautiful backdrop, and we're covered with food and drink for the day. That'd be awesome.
Mate, sounds good.
Matt, thank you very much, mate. Enjoy the rest of your holiday.
Bless you, mate. Thanks.
Cheers.